Something's going on in Florida. A hidden alarm bell. A market that once seemed invincible, now showing cracks. And believe it or not, the governor is sounding the alarm. So buckle up, because you're about to hear the truth behind the housing collapse, what's really happening, why it matters, and how you might be affected. Stick around, because what you'll find at the end may surprise you. So let's cut right to the chase. The man at the center of this story is Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida. He's made a series of statements lately that hint at something far deeper. He's talked about how the state's housing market, especially in the condo and investment property space, is under serious strain. For example, he recently pointed out that younger people are being pushed out of homeownership because of investor dominance and soaring costs. What he's essentially saying is, the collapse isn't just about interest rates or the normal market cycle. It's about structural shifts. It's about who owns and who can't. And when someone in his position uses language like that, we sit up and listen. Here's the context. Florida has been a hot market for years. People flocked there. Real estate soared. But beneath the hype, risks were building. One major risk: condos and older buildings. After the tragic collapse of the Surfside condominium collapse in 2021, Florida passed stricter laws requiring building inspections, reserves for repairs, and flags on unsafe buildings. Now, many older condo units are stuck. High fees, repair costs, buyers refusing to touch them. That means value dropping. Mortgages harder to secure. A ripple effect starts. That's one piece of the puzzle. Another piece: institutional investors, big firms buying up homes. They've long been a driving force in the Florida market, but data now shows their purchases are slowing down. In Q1 of 2025, investor purchases in Florida fell compared to the previous year. When big money pulls back, that's a red flag, because they aren't doing something if they don't see an upside. So what's causing the pullback? Higher costs, tighter regulations, less rental yield, cities pushing back. These things matter because they change how the market behaves. And now we circle back to the governor. When he says things like, "We've got a problem with our condo market right now," you don't treat that as PR fluff. You treat it as a warning. He also emphasized that property tax revenue in Florida is heavily tilted toward non-primary residences, investment homes, vacation rentals. What he's essentially saying, the market is not built on the average homeowner as much as you'd assume. That skews risk. Here's the hidden truth: the leak, the behind-the-scenes narrative that isn't getting enough limelight. The housing collapse in Florida isn't just a traditional bubble. It's a structural unwind of multiple layers. Aging buildings needing massive investment, regulatory changes biting, investor fatigue, heavy tax burdens shifting, and affordability hitting a wall. When you tie all of that together, you see a domino effect. One piece falling causes others to tumble. Let's break it down step by step so you can see the dominoes. Aging inventory plus buildings flagged for safety. Much of Florida's condo stock is older, requires big repairs, gets flagged by lenders, so buyers back out. That reduces demand. Sinking investor enthusiasm. Institutional buyers are pulling back because rental yields are squeezed, insurance costs rising, regulations tightening. Less investor demand equals less buoyancy. Homebuyer affordability erosion. With interest rates higher, insurance premiums skyrocketing, especially hurricane zones, property taxes shifting. Everyday folks are finding home ownership harder. Tax and revenue base stressed. Because investment and vacation properties dominate tax revenue, local governments depend on them. If their values drop or investor demand weakens, that strain can ripple out into services, infrastructure, value perceptions. Buyer psychology and market momentum. When people see units unsellable or banks unwilling to finance condos, they hesitate. That stalls the market, and once delays happen, momentum gets lost. So why is this so urgent? Because for Florida, and by extension anyone watching this who lives in or invests in coastal, high-risk, high-growth regions, this isn't a far-off possibility. It's a now possibility. The governor is warning it. The data is showing it. The consequences are real. And here's the human side. Families who thought they'd build equity for decades might find their home values flat or shrinking. Condo owners in buildings flagged for repairs may face huge assessments or dwindling buyer interest. Investors who bet on constant growth may find themselves exposed. Renters? They may face higher rents or fewer options if rental inventory drops because investor hunger wanes. But don't panic. If you're watching this because you care about protecting yourself, here's what you should do. Quick strategy: check the age and condition of your building, especially if it's a condo. Does it have major repair needs? Is it on a blacklist for financing? If you're buying, ask the hard questions. Is the building compliant? Are insurance and tax burdens likely to spike? If you own, watch your costs: insurance, assessments, taxes. Be ready for changes. If you invest, diversify. Don't assume every high-growth market stays high growth. Consider local dynamics, regulations, risk exposure. Stay informed. If a governor, state regulator, or major institution is sounding alarms, treat it as a credible signal. Here's the kicker. This isn't just Florida. Florida could be the canary in the coal mine. What happens when a state that saw massive in-migration, steep price gains, huge investor interest now faces cracks? Other markets with similar patterns could follow. That's why you'll hear headlines about Florida's housing meltdown and the ripple effect beyond. Now, I promised we'd get to the leak. What did the governor actually leak? Not a secret memo, but a truth. He exposed the imbalance between the everyone buys a home myth and reality. He highlighted that the market's foundation has shifted, more investment-driven, more burdened by cost and regulation, less resilient for the average person. When a governor says, "We've got a problem with our condo market right now," that's a leak of truth from the top. That's someone saying the emperor has no clothes. And it matters. Let's put this into sharper numbers without getting too nerdy. According to recent reports, older condos 30-plus years in Florida have seen value declines of up to 22% over 2 years. New York Post. Institutional investor purchases have dipped. Axios. Insurance and repair burdens are high, and financing is tough for flagged buildings. These aren't pretty numbers, and they are compounding each other. Let's stop for a moment and relate this back to you. Whether you're a homeowner, renter, investor, or simply someone watching the market, when foundational supports of a housing market shift, age of inventory, cost burdens, investor appetite, it's not just about the market slowing. It's about the market resetting. Values change. Risk changes. What worked before may not work now. Especially places like Florida. Constant population growth, high hurricane risk, rising insurance costs, sea level concerns, aging buildings. All those factors stack up. Growth can mask risk for a while, but growth doesn't last forever. And when the mask comes off, the cracks show. The governor's warning is that the mask is slipping. So what's next? Here are 3 things I expect to play out. Accelerated drop or stagnation in older condo markets, especially those that haven't kept up with repairs or are flagged by lenders. Policy responses. The state may offer relief for condo owners. In fact, they already introduced legislation to ease burdens. Caution among buyers and investors. When big money stops buying like before, the market lacks support. That could extend from Florida into other high-growth, high-risk states. In summary, the housing collapse in Florida isn't just a story of high interest rates or normal cyclical downturn. It's a story of structural change. And we know this because the governor himself has flagged the issue, the leak of truth. He's essentially saying, the house of cards is built on uneven pillars, and some of those pillars are starting to fail. If you're in real estate, if you care about housing, if you have skin in the game, now is the time to pay attention. Because when cracks form in one of the most active markets in the US, we all feel it. If you found this video helpful, hit like, subscribe, and tap the notification bell so you don't miss deeper dives into what's coming next. And let me know in the comments, are you a Florida homeowner, investor, or just curious? What risks keep you up at night when it comes to housing? Thanks for watching, stay sharp, and I'll see you in the next one.